the slide. Sorry, I'm just going to keep admitting people to the call. Hopefully everybody can see the slide, the Integration Architecture Study Group Kickoff. If you have your video camera enabled, please turn it off. That will have some mercy on everybody's computers and bandwidth, especially those of us that have to share internet connections with kids playing online video games. This session is being recorded, so I wouldn't expect you to say anything derogatory about anybody or reveal any competitive information, but please keep that in mind. So without further ado, let's get started. Today's meeting is going to be an overview of how the groups will work. We're going to discuss some options that you have either for continuing with the group in an active status or some other options if maybe you're not ready. And then finally, we will talk about next steps for the coming week and where we're going to go from here. So here we go. Full disclosure, don't yell at me. I'm a volunteer. Like all of you, I am studying for the architect exams. I'm preparing for the integration architecture exam. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Trailhead DX this year and earn my application architect certification while I was there. And now I'm on the long, scary road to system architect. So I am not a professional educator. I'm not a professional speaker. So bear with me. If you have recommendations for how we can make this group better, please send your suggestions, but be gentle. Or don't be gentle, but send your honest feedback. I've got a pretty thick skin and I'm not known for my political correctness either all the time. So I'll understand if you're not gentle. So what are we going to do today? Svatka, I see you joined. Svatka has very graciously stepped forward and volunteered to be a second group leader if the group remains at this large size. And Svatka, if you could please unmute yourself and tell us a little more about you.
Well, thank you, Natalya. My name is Luca Simpson. I am originally from Czech Republic, but I live in New Jersey. It's finally nice and warm, so we are super happy, not like in Florida where Igor is at. I'm very, very happy to be part of this crew. Like Natalya, I am not an educator, but I have been working with the Salesforce ecosystem since early 2000s. So you would think I know it all, but I don't. So here I am working with you guys. Happy to.
Thanks, Svatka. And that's one thing I forgot to mention. I'm actually very new to the Salesforce ecosystem. I just got into Salesforce last year in April, but I was a back-end web developer for over a decade before that. So I came in with a strong development background and decided to retool into Salesforce. And so next, we're going to talk about who has registered for the group so you get an idea of the caliber of people that are here and who said they're interested in participating. So we had 24 people, counting myself, express interest in doing the group. Of the 24 that signed up, 17 have already earned Platform Developer 1. 16 people have 1 or more consultant certifications, and multiple people have 2 or more consultant certifications. 15 people hold Advanced Admin or the Platform App Builder, and Advanced Admin and App Builder are very similar in content, which is why I lumped those two together. And half the group has already done at least one architect-specific exam, and that's all those designer $400 exams. Obviously, these are not all the same people. Some people have their consultant certifications, but maybe haven't started on App Builder or Developer 1. Some people have started down Developer 1, but maybe haven't started their architect exams yet. So we're all at different points of the process, and that's a good time to talk about what's the best approach for you to prepare for this exam or for any other certification exam. And I'm training for a half marathon right now, so I'm going to throw this analogy at you for your consideration. So if somebody said, let's go run a half marathon, you got a couple options on how to prepare. First of all, you could not prepare at all and just show up on race day and get through 13 miles. And a lot of you would make it even without any training. But those that are more cautious like me would probably start slower. Start with maybe a 5K, make sure I can do a 5K race, then build up to a 10K, make sure I can do my 10K race. And then once I've gotten those easier races out of the way, I'm going to go try the half marathon. And for those that are past that point, say, I'm ready to do a half marathon, I just need to train for it, there's also two options available. Option one is do your own thing. There's plenty of information on the internet for how do you build a running plan, how do you prepare for a half marathon. There's books out there that you can buy, you can download audiobooks, there are apps that will get you ready for a marathon plan. So you can do it yourself. It lets you go at your own pace. You don't have to listen to somebody else's plan for you. You can design your own plan. And then some of us need a little more inspiration and a little more accountability. I, for myself, know that I do better when I have somebody nagging me and pushing me and saying, hey, how are you doing on your plans? And so the other option to prepare for a half marathon is work with others to do it, whether that's hiring a coach or joining a running group. But it gives you a little bit of mutual support. Now, the downside is you go at the group's pace, maybe, or sometimes you have to push yourself beyond what you're comfortable with because that's where the group is. Or sometimes you're frustrated because the group is too slow. There's also a time commitment. You're expected to show up at certain times. And what it really comes down to is there is no one perfect way to train. Oops, sorry, everybody can prepare differently. For some people, the best option is to not even do the half marathon right now. Whoops, we're in autoplay mode. Sorry about that. Let's just back up a bit. So for some people, the best option is to not do a half marathon right now. The best option is to run a 5K, run a 10K, and ramp up. Some people, for whatever reason, don't want to commit to the extra time involved in preparing with a group. And some people do best in a group. And so it's really your choice. And what does this have to do with the integration exam? What are the parallels there? So option one, if you haven't already done the Platform Developer 1 exam, I would strongly urge you to not do this designer exam yet. I would strongly encourage you to do Developer 1. And before you do Developer 1, I'd even more strongly encourage you to do App Builder. The reason being is because Platform Developer 1 focuses on what you can do with code inside Salesforce. But as we all know, Salesforce's big claim to fame is no code, and it's all about clicks, not code. What App Builder does is it gives you that foundation of what can you do without code, gives you a strong understanding of the different automation processes that are available and can be configured just with clicks. And then having that understanding in place, you take Developer 1, you learn some of the coding concepts. It's still not really heavy on code, but you at least learn the basic constructs. And then you will be on much more solid ground to take on the architecture exams. Now, just because you don't have these certifications doesn't mean you don't have the coding experience. Maybe you've already been an Apex developer. Maybe you are already a wizard at flows and process builder, and you just don't have the certification to prove it yet. You will be on stronger ground than some folks that maybe don't have that experience. Can you completely ignore my advice and still pass the integration architecture exam? Absolutely. You may have a harder time of it than some of the other folks that have done the earlier exams or have had comparable work experience to get them ready for that level of exam. But I put this option out there. Consider it if you haven't gotten these certifications yet, especially Developer 1, because integration architecture is on the system architect side of the pyramid, and Developer 1 is a requirement to get your system architect certification. Option 2, study individually. Trailhead is a great resource, as you know. There's a trail mix out there now for integration architect. Pluralsight has some courses on integration. Google Docs, throughout this course, even if you choose not to participate actively with the group, we will make our Google Docs available for your use and for use by the greater architect community. Quizlet, one of my absolute favorite ways to study. And there's lots of Quizlet study sets out there. I also encourage you to make your own. Of course, the Trailblazer community, YouTube has a lot of great channels, both official Salesforce channels and non-Salesforce official channels that still have great content. And of course, Ladies Be Architects, there's great blogs out there as well. This option is available for you if you don't feel like you have the time to commit to the weekly meetings and to regular interaction with the group, then consider this option. And finally, option 3, study with the group. We'll have the weekly meetings to talk about what we've studied every week. We'll communicate on Slack in between the meetings, and then Google Docs, and we'll go more into detail on that, how we're going to use Google Docs. to track what we're going to be doing. And again, there is no single best way to prepare. There is no right answer to how you personally are going to prepare for integration architecture. Only you know where your strengths are. Only you know if you're truly ready to do integration architecture right now, or maybe you need to take a step back and tackle the developer exams first. I can't make that choice for you. You are welcome to stay with us. I'm not going to kick anybody out of the group because of certifications that you do or don't have. I'm just fair warning up front, it might be a harder battle for you, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. I know you can do it. And so the study schedule, this is a work in progress, but at the moment, this is what the study schedule looks like. So after the call today, this week, we'll be looking at high-level integration capabilities and patterns. And by we'll be looking, I mean everybody will be studying on their own, contributing content if you're working in a group setting, asking questions, etc. Week 2, we'll talk about security and integration considerations, the keywords from the study guide there being layer, timing, direction, volume. Week 3 is going to be hands-on with code with SOAP and REST web services. Here again, if you have not done Platform Developer 1 or if you don't have a background in writing code, week 3 might be challenging for you. So be ready for that and just plan to spend a little extra time that week if needed. Week 4, we're going to talk about data management migration. If you've already taken the data management and architecture exam, this week is going to feel a bit like review for you. Week 5, workflow outbound messaging, tools, monitoring, testing, and this is going to be kind of the catch-all of things we haven't covered, those miscellaneous little bits of information you need to know based on the study guide. Week 6 is going to be review, do hands-on activities. And again, there's going to be hands-on activities throughout the weeks, but week 6 is really going to be a chance to try to take some of those recommended projects that they have in the Trailblazer community and try to implement them in your developer org. And week 7, get out there and take the exam. I've already registered for my exam. I'm taking it the day after our meeting on Wednesday morning. So I encourage all of you to draw that line in the sand, because when you have that deadline there, it could motivate you on the days that you just don't feel like studying. So if you choose to continue with the group, these are the resources we're going to have. We will have the Slack channel for daily communication. If you're wondering why Slack and not the Trailblazer community, why not Chatter? Slack is a more all-around communication tool. It's used in a lot of different industries by a lot of different developers and by a lot of non-Salesforce people. And so some of you may already use it in your day-to-day jobs, or you've used it in the past. If you haven't, it's a super simple interface, very lightweight. There's mobile apps available. There's desktop apps available. We may end up at the end of the group saying, wow, Slack really sucked. We should try communities next time. Again, this is my first time leading a group like this. I'm bound to make mistakes, but what we've chosen for this go around is to use Slack. Salesforce is also making a master instructor available to us. His name is Amit Malik, and he is the master instructor, and he works primarily in India and APAC. So because of the time difference, he won't necessarily be joining our calls, but he has offered to make himself available to monitor questions on Slack. If you're going to continue with the group and you have a question specifically for him, I'll just ask you to mention him, just like you do in the community. You put the @ sign, start typing the user's name, and it should pop up, assuming they've already registered for their Slack channel. Google Drive. Let's talk about Google Drive. And I'm not sure if I need to stop sharing my other window, so bear with me for a second. Let's see, where do I start sharing? Terry Miller says Slack is awesome. Thanks, Terry. Very cool. Glad you like it. I really enjoy it, and it can nag you as little or as much as you want, including instantly. So let's get out of sharing mode. I can't get out of sharing mode. Oh, I'm presenting. There we go. Stop presenting. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is show you some of the Google Drive documents that we're going to use. And bear with me, I need to share a window. Which window am I sharing? Must be this one. Okay, so does everybody see a Google Sheet up on the screen? Somebody could just post in the comments, say, yes, we can see it, or hey, we're not seeing anything, or we're seeing the wrong screen. Or actually, right now, you should be. Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so Google Docs. This is the heart of what we're going to use, and I might be jumping the gun showing you this, but this is the Google Sheet. It has 4 tabs on it. The first tab is going to be for flashcards, and we'll go over a little later in this session what flashcards are for. And those that join the study group will make this available for editing to you. So flashcards are exactly what they sound like, quick pieces of information that you're going to need to know to pass the exam. Mock exam questions. This is where you get to pretend to be an exam writer. And you're going to imagine, given the knowledge, that the information that you're studying right now, how might an exam writer craft a scenario-based question around this knowledge? And you get to put your questions here, and not only will you be putting your questions and creating the answer choices, but you also get to explain why is your answer correct and why are the incorrect answers incorrect. And then also provide a reference link so that those of us that get the answer wrong can go and study it on our own. Other study resources, trail mixes are awesome, but trail mixes don't always contain the best information. So if you find a video, if you find a blog, if you have written something that is great information, please post a link to it here, title and link. And then finally, if there was things you wish were out there, this is the wish list tab. One of the requests I've made of the Salesforce Architect people is, hey, we keep talking about large data volumes and doing bulk data loads. Could you give me a file with like 20,000 records in it so I can load it and see what that actually looks like? So if you have a request like that, put it in here, and who knows, maybe somebody knows that a resource like this already exists, or maybe some wonderful person would volunteer to create one of these resources. What I know from the Trailblazer community is we have an awesome group of people, and there are everybody volunteers in myriad ways. So I might have jumped the gun explaining all that, but let's see. I'm going to go back to sharing my presentation. Okay, so back to study resources. Google Drive, so those documents will be in Google Drive. Every week there will also be a Google Doc where the weekly reading list will be posted. These sessions are being recorded, and they will be posted on the Ladies Be Architects channel for people to review if they can't make the meetings, or if they're doing self-study and just want to see what the group's been talking about. Depending on how many people opt to stay with the group option, we might need to split the group in 2, because you can't really hold a good group study session and let everybody talk when there's 24 people on the call. And so we'll probably split it into 2 groups of 12 or 3 groups of 8, depending on how many volunteers we have stepping up. And then finally, you're going to have your study buddies. The people in your group are a great source of inspiration for you, and I will be asking those of you that choose to stay with the group to be actively encouraging other people. So, talked about flashcards and mock exams. What's the difference? Flashcards are just like flashcards when you were in grade school, memorizing your basic facts. What's 3 times 3? You just got to know it off the top of your head. Just knowing 3 times 3 is not going to help you in your real life all by itself, but having that piece of information in addition with other pieces of information will help you solve bigger problems. They're small, focused bits of information, quick question, quick answer. They're just quick, quick, quick. That's why they're called flashcards. My favorite tool for flashcards is Quizlet. I've made heavy use of it. The way I've found that works for me is when I'm studying something new, I create flashcards on the fly in Quizlet so I can then go back and review the information as I'm preparing for exams. So what kind of flashcards make good flashcards? First, in the case of Salesforce scenarios, here are some thought starters for you. What are key features of whatever? I'm not going to read all these. You guys can read them. But as you're thinking of, well, what kind of flashcard could I possibly create about that, about this thing I'm studying? Here's some ideas to get you going. I'm sure other people on the call have even better options that will work for them. Mock exams, on the other hand, are like story problems in math. So knowing 3 times 3 is not enough to know a story problem. You need to be able to read the information, process the information, turn it into a problem, and then know how to solve that problem. You need to know multiple pieces of information. It's going to take you some time to read the question, really understand what they're asking. It's going to take you time to answer it. You've all done at least one certification exam. You know what these are like. There are no easy exams out there, or if there are, I haven't found it yet. As you know, most of the time they're scenario based. A lot of times there's 2 answers that look like the right answer, but you're only supposed to pick one. Or if it's a multiple choice and they tell you to pick 2, there's one answer you know for sure, and there's 2 others that might be the second answer, but sometimes you're just not sure. And it really a lot of times comes down to one keyword in the question. But sometimes you get lucky and it's just a super easy question. The Developer 1 exam, sometimes they just give you a piece of code and say what's going to happen here. On the Platform Developer 2 exam, they give you a little piece of JSON code and said what will happen when this JSON code is received. So sometimes it is just that simple, but a lot of it, as you all know, is scenarios. So anatomy of an exam question, so here's an example here. This is taken from the administrator certification website, which everybody here has that cert. So what should a system admin use to disable access to a custom application for a group of users? Oh man, there's a lot of information you got to know here. Number 1, what the heck's a custom application? As you know, it's something very different in Salesforce than in the rest of the world. How do you disable access? What's a profile? What's a sharing rule? What's a web tab? What's a page layout? So you need to know probably 6 different things before you can answer this question correctly. And so that is the high-level view. Your tasks for this week is decide which study approach you're going to take. Are you going to take a step back from integration architecture and do App Builder or Developer 1 first? Having heard some of the things we're going to be doing in the group, will you study at your own pace instead, or do you still want to stick with the group? We are not going to kick anybody out. If 24 people say, no, I am committed to participating in the group, we will find a way to make that work. But here are some things that I would ask you if you're going to stick with the group. Commit to doing at least a little bit every single day. And actually, even if you're self-study, I would encourage you to do that. It's a lot easier to do something if you do a little bit every day than if you save it for Tuesday at 5 o'clock before you hop on the 7 o'clock call. Create flashcards throughout the week. If you're in the group, we would ask you to contribute to that flashcard spreadsheet and also contribute to the mock exam questions. If you have tricks that you use to help you remember things, for example, on the Developer 1 exam, those of you that have taken it may remember the order of operations, and it's like this 13-step thing on what order things happen in. It took me a long time to memorize that order of operations. But if you have a trick for learning stuff like that, please share it with the group because other people are probably struggling too. If you have other study aids, I like to make charts and tables to summarize data. Please share those with the group and also review other people's contributions. Don't just post, but look at what other people have done. And then keep somebody else accountable. So if you're going to be part of the group, absolutely, we want you to participate on the weekly calls, share your knowledge, share your insights, share your feedback, but pair up with 2 or 3 other people. And I don't care how you do it. I'll provide some ideas on the Slack channel for how you can pair up, whether it's by geography, by common interest, by the first letter of your last name. But you're going to be much more likely to succeed if you know that somebody is going to be asking you how you're doing. And with 24 people on, I can't be asking every one of you individually. Although if I see that somebody hasn't been around for a while, I just might call you out and say, hey, what's going on? So to see if you truly want to continue with the study group, there is a form that I will post a link to on the Slack channel. If you want to continue with the group, please fill out the form. If you don't fill out the form, my assumption is going to be that you're going to choose to self-study. I will make the links to all the study resources read-only, publicly available to everybody, including the architect community. However, if you'd like to be part of the group and contribute to that content, then I need you basically to do a second opt-in to say, yes, I still want to do the group, even though you've almost scared me out of it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then finally, read the recommended articles. And again, those will be posted. I will post a link to that. And so I've been talking for the last 25 minutes, and it's time for me to stop talking for a while. If you have questions, comments, concerns, ideas, now is your chance. Feel free to take your microphone off mute and fire away. We got a quiet group here. Okay, we're going to leave this line open just a little longer in case somebody's just trying to get the nerve up to speak or is fumbling with their mute button.
Hi, Natalya. This is Sumant.
Hi.
Can you hear me fine?
I can, yes.
Okay. So since I think that slide that you have on is a perfect slide for me to jump in, because I am planning on my PD1 certification right now.
Okay.
So my question is whether it's a good idea to still be part of this group. The timeline that I have is I'm planning to take the exam anytime in next 10 days to 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
I've been preparing for some time, but kept on, I haven't booked the exam yet, but I got some other stuff from work that is pushing my exam further. But if this is where I am, I'm spending some time every day so far. But if I'm planning to see if I can finish in next anywhere from 1 week to 2 weeks, and then I don't know if I am going to do that. Will I miss a lot of what we are going to cover? Or yeah.
Well, again, the sessions will be recorded. The study materials that the group puts together will still be out there. And so you're welcome to come back and jump in and review that information at any time. The biggest question you would need to ask yourself is, do you have time both to prepare for Dev 1 and to contribute to the architecture group as an active group member versus just doing self-study and following the videos and the notes afterwards? And that's a question only you're going to be able to answer.
True. Yeah, that is something I have to figure out how I'm going to manage in the first couple weeks. But after that, I will be 100% able to contribute.
Okay. Well, again, PD1 doesn't do a lot with integration. PD2 is heavy on integration, which, by the way, those of you that stick with the integration architecture exam, consider doing Platform Developer 2 afterwards, because a lot of the content overlaps very nicely. And so you'll have a good basis for Developer 2. Of course, there's all those nasty super badges you have to complete, but that's okay.
Hey, Natalya, I just want to jump in here. This is Atul. Sumant, I've got a couple of things to mention here. I think that they might be helpful. So I've been following Gamma's blog, and there are a lot of blogs like that. They kind of advise on exactly how you should go about these designer certs. So I'm definitely a very big advocate of following a particular order in giving out these exams. So PD1 is definitely there, but I'm not sure whether you have already completed your data architecture and sharing and visibility, because those are the ones that are recommended to be the first designer certs to be done. So if you have not, then it's always advisable to go ahead, get your PD1, after that get your PD2, then the data architecture, and then the sharing and visibility, and then after you completed all that, come back to the integration one. So there are a lot of concepts that you're going to be going through in integration architecture that are going to be used from your data architecture and everything.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep. Thanks, Atul. Yeah, just I did my data architect and passed during the Trailhead DX, and according to Gemma's blog, I think she listed integration as the next one, which is why I was curious to be part of the group. But I know PD1 should be the one that I should be taking next, and which is why I'm focusing on that.
Yeah, and I've studied for 2 exams at once. It can be done because I was going to take 2 designer exams at Trailhead DX, and I wanted to be completely ready for one of them, knowing that I was going to take it Sunday morning or Sunday night. I don't even remember when it was. And then I knew I have an extra couple of days to finish the second exam. So it's possible to study for 2, especially if there's overlap. I'm not saying it can't be done. I do just want to warn the people that if you're preparing for another exam, consider the workload.
Hello. I have a question, or more like a suggestion here. I've been studying for integration architect certification for a while. I'm actually planning to take it sometime shortly. But my question is around the fact that based on a trail mix that's out there for this particular certification of integration architect, there are a lot of resources that point particularly that there are certain sections around external objects, which is part of the integration, obviously. But since these things were written and some of the blogs and some of the information that's there seems outdated, because obviously external objects have introduced a lot more features, such as updates and external sources. You can do triggers, you can do some other things. And I'm just wondering, I'm going by the assumption that the certificate exams and questions have not caught up with that yet, because it's been released recently, like maybe a spring 18 and summer 18 as very recent sort of developments. But there's some other items. So I just wonder, do you have any insight of how soon are these questions or these exams are updated towards the actual release?
That's a great question, and I can't answer that. I would recommend posting that one in the official Architect Trailblazer community. Deb and Suzanne monitor that, and they are, I'm sure, are dealing with the people that write the exams, and they would be in a better place to answer that. One thing I would recommend around that, especially with Summer 18 release out now, we know our favorite maintenance exams are coming again, is read the exam guidelines. As you know, those maintenance exams, they feed you the information you need to know. So I would use that as a study guide for any new features, because if they want you to know it for the maintenance exam, there's a good chance they're going to want you to know it on the actual exam as well. Okay, any other questions from anybody? We're going to give it like 10 seconds and then we're going to call this an end. If you all should have received a Slack invitation, so please log on to Slack. A lot of you have done it already. If for some reason you didn't get a Slack invitation, and it was only sent to your primary email address, so you wouldn't be wondering why you have to create 2 Slack logins. It was only sent to the first address you put as the best email address to contact you at. So check your spam folders, check your unfocused folders, whatever your email program calls those things that it doesn't think are important to you, and look for that link. And if necessary, I will try to resend. Okay. Hearing no more comments, this is like the world's shortest 2-hour meeting here, which I love. I don't like staying on meetings any longer than I have to. If you do stay with the group, we'd love to have you. Again, if 24 people stay, we will make it work with 24 people. This isn't about numbers. This is about you being able to get the most out of the group in the way that makes the most sense for you, given your other time commitments. And we've all got other time commitments. So again, communicate on Slack. I prefer, my email inbox is already overflowing, as I'm sure all of yours are as well. So let's keep the communications in Slack and have some mercy on people's inboxes. And other than that, thank you for joining. This recording will be posted on the Ladies Be Architects YouTube channel just as soon as I figure out how to do that. And thank you all for joining. And I'm going to stay on unless it drops off.
Yeah, thanks for getting this set up.
Sure, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Sure. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Natalya.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Natalya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Go do something fun now. Meetings are never fun.
All right. Thank you, Natalya. Well,
Yeah.
that was short.
Yeah. I can't guarantee they'll all be that short, but the first one is.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye. I'm definitely staying. By the
Okay,
way.
cool. All right. I'll look for that response. We have one person remaining on the line calling in from a 636 number. I'm not sure if you had to step away, but we are done with the meeting. We're going to post the recording, but I'm just hanging out until everybody else drops to make sure there's no last minute questions.
No, that was me. I was trying to log off my to go come in 2 different ways, so I hadn't quite hung up yet. Have a good evening.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
In that case, I will stop recording. Have a good night.